Yep, sure.
You can't import a PDF into Revit in Photoshop, can you?
Not easily, no, no.
Probably
No.
closer to the part than the
So I've got these obviously some walls in, and I'm just going to do some openings now to give you an idea of the main steps there and the things you need to think about. And so you can see on the architecture tab, obviously you've got the door and the window tool, and they both work in fairly similar ways. So I'll start with the door tool, and you can see that wherever there's a wall, if you hover over it, it should give you a preview of the door that you have selected. And then you can change in the type selector to the different sizes or the different types that you have of each door that's loaded. But unlike the walls, you probably find that you don't have many loaded initially. And so here I've just got this one door, which is good for simple doors, this single flush. And I've got a few sizes loaded, but to get more, I'll need to go to Load Family. And then it should take you straight to the library. So in there you'll have the doors folder, where you'll find a lot of the basic doors. But it won't hurt to look in some of the other libraries, and if you go manually to the P drive, and then in interior design, you've got the Revit library that I've given to you here, which has a lot more in it. So if you go into the doors folder there, you'll see a lot more than in the default library. So I'm just going to go back and then back again so that I can see that Revit library folder, and I'm going to drag it over to this shortcut bar on the left, that grey sidebar, and it'll make a shortcut for me there. So I don't need to browse to it every time. Just click on that and it'll take me straight to it. I've got metric library there if I want to go back to that default one, and then detail library, but I want this Revit library. So then in doors here, you'll find pretty much all the doors I think you'll need to get started. And so this is one I've made, CC Single Flush, which is a very simple door. And like I was saying earlier, with anything in this project where you can keep it simple, then you should. So that's a very simple door, and it doesn't have anything like the architraves and the other things that are on the American doors that you probably don't want. If you go into Fine, you can see it's just got, it doesn't have door jambs on it. So it's a very simple door. If we go into Edit Type there, and then Load, then I can change it to a different door if I want to. And that's not a bad way of working, so you can always start off with simpler families, and then later on, if you need to, change them to more detailed ones. Okay, so I'll just do that. And I know the Australian ones aren't too bad. So you have the, oh God, I need to just look at the names. So they have Oz in brackets after them, the ones that are, here we are. So single steel frame Oz, single timber frame Oz, the ones set up for Australia. And they actually are pretty good. So a single timber frame there. Okay, don't worry about that. And, well, actually for this project, the steel frame would be more appropriate, so I'll use that. Okay, so it'll just change that door, and you can adjust the facing using the arrows. So I can flip that either direction and to open either way. And so you can see there it's not quite the size though of the door that I had. So I'm going to first just check that size. So the door size there you can see was, well, you can tell there basically 820, should have been the actual door. So if I select that door family and then go to edit type. You can see here it's got 720. We've got 820 already set up as a size actually, and you can see that's already set my width there to 820 for the opening, but in this case we want 820 for the door. So I'll go back to edit type. Right, so the 920 will give us a 840 door, so that's not going to work either. So just like the wall, you can use duplicate to make a new type or size when you need to. Okay, so there it's giving the names in with the opening size. So my opening would be 900. Okay, so I'll make the opening there 900. And that should give me an 820 door. Okay, it's not lining up exactly for some reason. What's going on there? Let's just check those measurements. So don't get too fussy with this, but it's good to have a basic idea why it's happening. So there. Oh, sorry, it is the door. Sorry, that's strange. So let's see, 820. Oh no, that is right. Okay, so I was just imagining things, but I just wanted to show you how to change the size anyway when you need to. So that's really important, and also to see that the width usually is going to be from the openings of the door or the window that you're using, but not always. And so you can see there, it's actually using the door panel size for the width here. Yeah. Sorry? No, that's for fire escapes. Openings can be any size. But yeah, required exit, sorry, not fire. But yeah. So so windows basically work the same way. Okay, so with the window tool, again, you'll just have the one family loaded initially, and then the different sizes, and it's a really useful family actually because that's your main fixed window. And so again, I'll just place one of those randomly. Just like doors, you can go to load family to get new ones. And the Windows folder here is actually pretty good as a starting point because we've got all the main kinds of windows. And so, say sliding or there's another slider that's actually better than this one. Oh yeah, here we go. So the yep, that'll do. Don't worry if it asks you for a list of sizes. If you do find a size that is what you want, then choose it, but otherwise you can make your own sizes when you bring it in. So I'm just going to choose one here almost at random. And, well, I can't see my window there anymore, but there might be a window roughly there. And so it's worth having a look at these in 3D to see what's happening with the height, because that's obviously not the right window for this, but just an example. The doors will just go in at the height of the floor level. So you don't need to think too much about their height, especially when you're putting them in plan. They just go right at your floor level. But the windows will have a sill height. So you'll need to think about that. And if you're placing them in a plan, you can see here the sill height comes up in properties. And I'll just go back to the fixed window. Okay, so you might want a window that's 2 meters above the floor for a high level window. One little tip when you're placing the windows, try and keep the cursor closer to the outside of the building, because notice how the glass there can go either on the inside or the outside. And if you're not sure which way it should be, the glass should be closer to the outside. Generally, that's the rule. Okay, so I've put the window in. It's there, but it might look like it isn't. I can tell that's there because that arrow there tells me the window's actually gone in, but we can't see it in the floor plan. Right? And it's all to do with this sill height. The wall's high enough, but the view isn't. So if you think about what a floor plan really is, it's a horizontal section. Looking in 3D, I'll show you that window just to prove it. It's there, but in this ground floor plan where I've placed the window, I'm not looking at a height high enough to see that window. So you need to have a bit of an idea when you're doing these things about, in properties, for the view, how you adjust the clip plane or the cutting plane. And again, you do that using view range. So the first step is to make sure you've got the view properties, which again comes up when you have nothing selected and tell you what sort of view it is. Go down to view range, edit, and you've got the cut plane height there. Right, so I'll make that 2050, so it's just a little bit higher than the window. And now I can see the window. So, so then when you start working with things like that, you'll probably be thinking about your heights. And before you go too far with your walls and definitely openings and things like that, you're going to need to set up some levels. Right, so in the south elevation, I can see then that I've got, why have I got ref level? What's that? Yeah, if you get something like this, you probably won't. But if you see something like ref level, just hide it straight away. You won't need that. Yep, there we go. And all you need to see are your main levels, ground floor and level 1. They should be. And it'll help you if you get them set out across the whole length of your building. So here I've stretched out one side so that it's, to one side of the building, and then I'll take that line so that it's long enough, not just to go past my building, but also to have the text on the end, right? Because in the north elevation, that's the other end, right? So that's the same line, that end. Okay, so I've got those two levels. I'm just going to show you the elevation of this real building that I know now is never going to be built because I've seen them doing work on the hub just recently. But anyhow, so where did it go? Okay, so that's my elevation. I've got the ground floor that I've been working on, and then there's the first floor, and then I've got another level above that that's inside. So, so I've got those three floor levels: ground, first, and second. And then I'll need a service level as well, so that'll be third, and then a roof level as well. So 4 new levels. And that's the way you want to be thinking. You don't need to have all the levels worked out, but you should have a rough idea of the main floor levels you'll need. And then you need to add a roof level. Always you'll need an extra level for the roof. And it's no problem adding levels later, but again, if you can have them in at the beginning while you're setting up your walls and other things, it will help. So here, just with the level tool, on again, architecture tab, you've got level. Has to be in an elevation or a section view for it to work. And the best way to draw levels is left to right. So starting on the left-hand side, I've got an extension coming up from the levels below. And that helps if you can line it up using that extension line, take it to the right, and line it up on the other side using that extension line there. Don't panic if you haven't lined them up, you just won't get those lock symbols. But if you do get them locked at the end, it will just make your life a bit easier. Okay, so I've got ground floor, level 1, level 2. I need level 3 for my last floor. And then level 4, which is really going to be my roof level. So I'll just go in and straight away rename that. And always, always, always say yes to rename corresponding views. Don't even think about that one, just say yes every time, because that will keep your floor plans over here with the same names as your levels. Otherwise, they won't match, and that gets confusing. Okay, so notice I didn't really worry too much about the heights. At this stage, it's not critical. If you know roughly what your heights are, put them in. But if you don't know, don't worry too much. You can probably assume that something like 4 meters between your levels is a good distance if you need to add in new floors. Or if you've got existing floor levels, just try and get something as close to those as you can. But one of the huge advantages you have with Revit over every other BIM program like ArchiCAD or those others is that it's a true BIM program. It's parametric all the way through. And simply what that means is you can change the levels later and all your objects will update automatically. Okay, so if I realise later that these levels need to move up or down a metre or two, it doesn't matter. Everything on those levels will stretch accordingly and then connect to the level above or below as it should. Sure.
So if you have 4 levels,
Yep.
and if you have a building, which is the facade of the building connecting from ground floor to the top floor, so you should show one wall.
Yes, that's a really good point. Yep, that's what I'm going to show you now. That's a really good point. Yeah, where you can try and have it as one continuous wall, but say if it's different materials or if it's just too awkward, if it is a different shape slightly on the next level, then it's sometimes better to stack the walls on top of each other. Yeah, but only sometimes. Generally, if you can have one wall continuing through across the levels, yeah, that's the way to do it. So, so here, what I'm doing is just matching the heights of the levels. That's just a little thing, which if at first you can do, in other words, if you can have the levels there all with even heights, where possible, don't worry if you can't do this, but if you can have them like that, it will just make it easier for you when you're copying things between levels at first. It really can help a lot. So, try and do it like that, but again, if your level heights are already on your section and you put those in and they're different, then don't worry too much. Right, so finally I just want to show you, if I go into a 3D view now, I can see the main walls, and I probably already have a pretty good idea which of these walls would continue through to the top levels, so those exterior walls like this one, and the fire stairs. Right, so they're all going to continue through. This is another fire stair over here. That's the ticketing booth, but this is the lift, which again will continue through. So all of those walls now, as long as I only have walls selected, I can just go into properties and change the top constraint of those to roof. Well, in my case, actually, my roof is higher than the last level, so level 3 in my building. But in a typical building, it might go all the way to the roof. So that's it, and then you can go to the next level, and you'll see then that it should start making sense because the walls are on only the ground floor will come in greyed out. If they don't, or if you want to change it to show something else, that's because of the underlay setting here. So the underlay is the level below ground floor. You can adjust that. And so now I could draw the, again, the walls that would only be on this level. And there'd be a lot. So I've got a floor plan for that. Okay, so this is my floor plan for the next level, and the layout's quite different to the level below. So now with this floor plan, I can start drawing some of the walls. I'll bring that drawing in first as just a quick thing to remind you. I've done this so many times in the other videos, but maybe one more time doesn't hurt. So hopefully now this process will make more sense. Duplicating the view, renaming it. One little thing, if you haven't, has anyone looked at Revit 2015 yet? So? The what? Yeah, that's right, exactly. And in Revit 2015, they fixed that duplicating up, works a bit better. So, yeah, I've been playing with Revit 2015 over the holidays. It's got some good stuff in it. So I can insert now that drawing. and just line it up. Again, if you don't have the drawing for each level, then again you can just draw the walls directly. But I just want to draw some different kinds of walls because I've been drawing simple walls so far. But for your openings, as well as doing doors and windows, another option is to use curtain walls. And they'll work for, especially in commercial tenancies, but also even in the residential areas. There'll be sections where curtain walls will make more sense than normal walls. And so, well, a common mistake people make is trying to use curtain systems that you have on the architecture tab. They're difficult to use if you don't already know how to use them. And they're not the normal way of doing curtain walls anyway. Okay, so the normal way, it's just not as obvious, that's all. So when you click on the wall button, the main thing again to realise is that it's in the type selector. You go down to curtain walls there, and they're much easier to use. So with storefront, you'll get a basic curtain wall that's got some pretty standard framing. Notice with curtain walls, you don't get a location line. Always draw curtain walls with the centre line. That's fine. And then the height there, I'll just leave on level 2. So again, I'm going to trace that glass, which happens to be my centre line, so that's good. You can see there, it's showing me the wall though going the other way, going to the inside. Space, again, will flip it to go to the right side, which is to the outside. Okay, so I'm just going to draw down to here for now, because you'll see with curtain walls, they basically get drawn the same way as regular walls, but you need to think about the framing as well. So I'll just take this down to about here. Okay, so notice it's putting the mullions on for me, which is a nice thing. Saves you modelling all of this. So let's put one more in. Right, now with a column there, that'll look okay if I stretch those walls across to join to the column. But at the corner here, when I trim those together, it's still going to have those 2 mullions there. So with curtain walls, unlike normal walls, you've got multiple components. Right, so you can use tab to get to those different bits and pieces. So hover there. If I just click normally, it'll select the wall, the whole curtain wall. But if I use tab first, or if I'm lucky I can just get it by hovering, I'll be able to get, in this case I want the mullions. So tab until I get that piece on the corner there. That little thing tells you it's pinned, so I'll unpin it and delete it. And then the other one, same thing, delete. Let's look at it in 3D and you'll see more clearly what's happening, and I've got more mullions there in the bit above, so that's okay. They can just be deleted the same way. Often, yeah, that's right, exactly. Yeah. And so now I can go back in and put a different mullion there, just using, so again on the architecture tab you've got the mullion tool. And in, again, the type selector there, you'll have corner mullions, so I just use a quad corner. And I'll just place that on that corner and it'll...
What if you wanted the glass to join there?
You have to do a... easy way is to just edit the glass panel. So I'll do that. If you use tab, you can select the panel. And then a good way is just to go to edit type and take that offset away, make it 0, which will centre the glass. The reason the glass isn't joining is because it's offset. So once it's centred, then they should meet, and that's good enough. So in reality, you'd have a silicon joint there, but that's fine. And that actually looks alright, I think, for even just reasonably close up. It's probably pretty good. So so curtain walls, they're not much more difficult than regular walls, but other than the storefront wall, at first you'll only have the plain glass, which is this curtain wall 6mm thick glazing, and it's at first going to be set up the same way. Here it's joining because I've changed my panel. So if it had that offset, it'd still be, if I flip them, so annoying, doesn't want me to flip it. There we go. So that's what it would have looked like. If I go back. Without the offset, or with the offset still. But yeah, that's a really good way actually, if you just take the offset off. And I know those corner windows are all the fashion at the moment. I'm doing one on my own house right now, so yeah, I know why you want to do them. But yeah, otherwise the corner mullions are great. And then, oh yeah, so I was going to show you if you want to get some different curtain walls. The trick is to open. So I'm just going to go to the main menu and open. And just because I've got some curtain walls I made for one of the other classes, I'll give you these as well. Sorry, it's in here now, that's right. Okay, so these are just some curtain walls that I made that have some different, maybe more contemporary details. So you've got louvers, different kinds of louver walls, and then just different basic framing, frameless one, and the one with mullions with just the blade type mullions, rather than those really boxy things. So they're just a quick and easy thing you can put into your projects.
How do you make a louvered roof?
Well, it would be more like a curtain wall actually, the way it'd be built, because you'd have the framing and everything. It'd have to be all structural, and so yeah. So you just make it in Revit as a family, probably. Yep. You could do an assembly. No, just a family at first would be the easy way. So oh yeah. So with this file. Hopefully you've noticed that I went to open. That's the real trick with these files. You can't load them in the same way as a normal family. So just open it the way you would a project file. Select the thing you want. So I'll select this one. Control C. That's copy. Control Tab. Switches to the file, hopefully that you were just in. If it doesn't, just keep doing Control Tab. Then on the Modify tab, you can go to Paste, or just Control V. Click to place it, and that makes it part of this file. It's not for the object. If you have a look, you'll see I've put a copy of that wall in there, but I don't need to keep it. I can delete that now. But any wall that I have that's a curtain wall, or even if it's not actually any wall, I can now go to my list of types, and there it is. So sometimes you'll get these mullions at the top and the bottom shouldn't have been left there, but because they were there with the previous wall, it's kept them. And so unfortunately you have to manually go and delete those, but that's not a hard thing to do. So I'll just show you there. You can right click when you've selected one, select all instances, and that'll get them as a group. And that's a really easy way of clearing out things like that. And then you can use all those different wall types. So maybe just finish off there. I've got the levels. You can see if you have a look in the the elevations I'll go back to. You can see all the levels. But in your section view, you might get something like this where it's cut or cropped. Cursor back up. And so that's because of this crop region. It's set initially to a fairly small size. You can either just stretch that out to see what you need to, or what I'll often do is just turn it off. Down here, you can just disable cropping. Let's bring this back. So it's cropping at the moment. You can see it's taking away things. So let's just disable cropping altogether. You can still see the cropping region though. The button next to that will turn it off altogether. So then you'll have all the main views that you need. And so I might just quickly show you a floor and finish this one there, because you've probably been thinking of the levels as floors. It's important to realise the floors are, of course, a separate object. So with this first floor here, it'll help a lot if I've got that shape of the floor drawn. That defines the balconies and everything. So on the Architecture tab, got the floor tool. Let's make sure that I line that up properly. check something there. I think I've made a mistake here with the lining up of that plan, so I'll just bring that up. It should have been, sorry, on this corner. There we are. That's better. So again though, when I draw the floor, that will help me to coordinate and line everything up. So with the floor tool, you go into sketch mode, and that's a little bit different to the wall and the door and the window tool. So in sketch mode, you can just draw 2D shapes or outlines, and on pick walls, that's the tool it begins with. You can pick any wall and it will use that to create an edge, this magenta or pink line. So you can see I'm just picking the internal face of the walls, and that's a good way of making upper level floors. Don't worry about working the structure out and engaging them with your walls or anything like that. Just do the floor lined up with that inside edge. And then in situations where you don't have walls, you can of course just draw the shapes that you need directly, either drawing lines or any of these other shapes. Okay, so I've got a big balcony out here that doesn't have a wall under it, so I can just trace those lines using the line tool. Okay, there are walls here which I could pick, but it doesn't hurt sometimes just to manually draw the lines if you know them, or if you know where they should go. Okay, so I can always just trace it, doesn't hurt. And so there, this wall would actually continue up, so that's only going across to there. And it's easy to change afterwards if you make a mistake or you change your design. Okay, so there, I wasn't sure that I went to the corner, so I'll just start again on the line here, and I'll come back and connect those afterwards. So there, we've got a window that's overhanging a walkway, so the floor would probably go along the edge of that. So you can work these things out as you're drawing your design in, but again, if you realise afterwards that you've done it the wrong way or you need to change it, it's not a problem to edit this. Okay, so now I've got all the different sides of my floor drawn, or for the back or the top part anyway, but I still need to then trim to join all of those ends to be connected and have a continuous loop. So down here, again, I can just draw lines where I don't have walls. So this is my fire stair, and then it comes down to the balcony again. So there would have to be some sort of projection there. So I'll just continue the floor, again tracing the balcony. And so this is a walkway going over here, and yep, that's right, so up to there. And that's back to the start. And so once I've used trim to join these last two corners, that will be a continuous or a closed shape. So I've got an outline going all the way around the edge where all the ends are connected to the next line. Right, but then I've got this area here that's open. The stairs come up into that area, and that's the main entry. So that'd be a void. And so I can draw a rectangle or just a shape inside my outline to make any open spaces. Like that. Okay, so I know the lift is going to come through here, which is going to affect that floor later, but I can always come back and edit the floor to cut that away. So I'm going to finish this now. And it's telling me that, well, I thought it was closed, but I've obviously missed something. That's okay. So it's telling me it should be in closed loops. You can use the show button to show you where the problem is. Okay, so So I'll hit close. This is just telling me it's going to go to a different part of the view. There we are, that's okay. So it's zoomed to where the problem is, and you can see it there, it's highlighting my ends that aren't joined. So I'll hit continue, and then with trim, I can join those. And that's the last one, hopefully. So I'll finish that now. It'll tell me if it's not. And you'll often get a message like this when you draw floors over the top of walls. Yeah. And so use your judgment. It will highlight the walls that it wants to attach, these orange ones. Okay, and I don't really want to attach those. They're walls that I want continuing through to the top of my building. And so I'm going to say no, and I usually do say no to this one. The second question, asking about cutting and joining geometry, I always say yes. Always, because I end up joining everything anyway. And so it's a lot of work to manually do that at the end. If you let Revit do it for you by saying yes here, it will save you a lot of time. Okay, so then in my 3D view, I can again see which of those walls maybe did need to be attached and manually attach them. So there's the wall that was coming through from the tenancy, the shop underneath. I don't want that coming through this floor. So I'll select the wall, and then I can just go to attach top base, choose the floor, and it'll stop it underneath. The ticketing booth as well actually stops underneath too, so I'll just, well, sort of. So yeah, I'll attach it for now. So I just use tab if you're wondering, just to select all 4 walls, and then attach top base, and again I can select the floor. And then maybe just to quickly show you some editing, I'll select that floor again, back to level 1, edit boundary, and I can then pick, I'll just use pick lines to pick the outside of the lift here, because it would be a separate floor, and just use trim to join those. That easy. So again, no to attaching. Now that was clever of me. I've gone and cut the floor so that the floor goes through the lift. It's not actually what I wanted. So I'll go back to edit boundary. It should have been the void going around the lift. Okay, so it's a good chance to show you a couple of tricks. With a line, I can choose the outside of this wall, and then the line, take it over there. So that fixes that part up. Pick lines, and I can get these other 2 lines that I need, and trim away, and that'll join it all. There we go. Alright, so that hopefully will give you plenty to go on with. You could do all of the floor plates. And sorry, the very last thing I promised. The ground floor, just so you know, with those, you should do, or sorry, not the ground floor, the lowest floor in your building. Usually the easiest way to do those is under your walls. So in other words, on the outside of the wall, when I use pick walls here, it'll let me pick either side, so I can pick on this side. Yes, go away. And it should pick up the outside of the wall. If that causes problems for you, just use pick lines instead, or draw the lines. Okay, so I'll just, well, my slab for this building actually went to the, basically to the boundary, so I'm going to use that reference plane for the front edge, and then just trim those. Okay, so again, when I finish this and look at it in 3D, you'll see that now it looks at least like things go together and are held up structurally. So the walls sit on something rather than floating, and then the floor, all the floors above, are supported by the walls. And then, and probably most importantly in section, it looks right. So again, this wall isn't floating, it's got something under it. And to begin with, you can just quickly change that to a thicker floor if you want to. Just like you can for the walls. But then the upper level floors will just sit inside the walls like that, rather than coming through to the edge and messing up the way the wall looks on the outside. So, no, so that, see what they do is they measure the floor always to the top.
Yeah,
So when you draw a floor,
from here
Oh, that's right. Exactly. Exactly. That's right. Yes, that's right. By the floor thickness, and you should have a ceiling under that as well. Right. So the floor, it's important to realise, is obviously necessary and has a structure and a thickness. But then the ceiling structure and thickness is going to give you obviously your ceiling height. So I'll just put a quick one into this ticketing booth because it's basically automatic. Okay, so that's done. The ceiling there now. I'll make a section through it. Look at the section, and you can see I've got a ceiling there below the floor. You could always have that much higher if you wanted to, but it will have a thickness below the floor no matter what. And so that's what gives you the ceiling height. And let's just make it an exact measurement, like 3,500. And so that gives you room for services and other things as well. But it's good for you to see that even at this point, because then you can see that you don't really need a level for the ceilings. People do use them sometimes, but you can do it just like I've done. I think it's easier to do it this way and simpler is usually better. That's how I do my projects. I don't make levels for ceilings if I can help it. So that ceiling there, you can see I've just put a height in here from the ground floor level. Just type it in. And for me it makes sense because I know then that's 3.5 metres. Even if this floor moves, it's going to maintain that ceiling height, which is usually what I want. Okay, so that should, like I was saying, give you plenty. Maybe one very final thing I promise is if you do have duplicate floors, because I know a lot of you will, and you want to copy them from one level to another, this floor here, it's actually completely different in my design, but I'll just say it's maybe for now the same as the next floor above, or similar. So I can use copy to clipboard and then paste a line to selected levels. And now I can choose as many levels as I want. So I'll just choose, let's say 2 and 3. We'll do a couple. So now in my 3D view, there we go. I've got the floors already copied up there. And they're all independent objects. So even if they were fairly different to the other levels, I can always just go into Edit Boundary now and make this have the changes that I want. Okay, but I won't do that now. So, I mean, floors are pretty straightforward usually, as long as you don't try and do anything too fiddly with them. And, oh yeah, maybe with walkways and balconies, you can see I've just done it all as one floor, so it's all at the same height. And from a design point of view, that's often a good way of doing it, because people like that transition between the indoors and the outdoors without having to step down. But it still can be good practice to have that step down floor level for your outdoor areas. Okay, so if you want to do something like that, when you're drawing your floors, just put in a height offset here. So say -100. And I'll just draw a floor out here so you can see what's happening. Okay, so that's just set down a little bit from the main floor level. And you'll often have that. So for all sorts of things, bathrooms sometimes, and lots of other areas, you'll need the different floor level to your main floor level. But it doesn't mean you need to make a separate level. You just need to make a separate floor and give it a height offset in properties. Especially if it's only a little distance away from the main level. It's much better to do it that way than to have lots of levels. Right, so hopefully that's really all you need to know to do your floors. Have you used the roof tool much in Revit? No? Don't be afraid to use it, because once you can use the floor tool, you should be able to use the roof tool. Basically the same. Just going to show you one option. Turn define slope off though. Just turn that off. Mostly, I don't think any of you have, or many of you have sloping roofs. If you do, let me know and I'll show you what to do there. But if you've just got a flat roof, just turn that off and you should be away. So otherwise it's just going to be the same as drawing the floor. And so I'll just emphasise that sketch mode aspect. Don't forget about that. The fact that when you go in to edit your boundary or drawing your floor in the first place, you can't use any other tools. Right, but if you go and cancel it, that'll get you out of it if you don't want to make any changes. And yeah, so hopefully that should be enough for floors and levels as well.